I grew up in the 80s and 90s in school, and I can say, yeah, that was absolutely true. Like dance not existent. Now I think of like, I couldn't imagine being in school today, like being in elementary or junior high. Like it's just so different. And my heart goes out to them, and especially how much information is available and how much we actually, as a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, shouldn't even be participating in some conversations that we're participating in because our brain's not developed to even be able to hold some. We're getting answers to questions we don't ask, and that's a whole other podcast. But at this point, when you think of this shift or this return to the heart, which I totally agree, I feel like some of us are going to go towards the singularity and others of us are going to return to the earth. And I feel like there is going to be a revolution, an analog revolution, maybe many other revolutions, but I do feel like people are going to get overexhausted from technology and want to come back to this.
Well, the pendulum swings, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like it's swung so far with technology and like way too much stimulus for what our brains and our nervous systems can, balance in a healthy way, that there is this return. And even where I live now, in beautiful Okanagan and BC, yeah, COVID helped that movement for a lot of getting back on farms and land and growing food. And you saw a lot of people leave the cities. And I think they started to feel that return, maybe not because they had a premonition one day, but kind of forced to. It's like, we don't want to do what we're doing anymore. It's not sustainable. We've become disconnected. And people are wanting to come back to, I think, their bodies, where their food comes from, being on the land, running around and, bare feet and being in the forest. So a lot of my patients, I do see that. And, I see a specific subset of the population. And a lot of the conversations are now about that, because I'm looking at what they're doing in their life that has contributed to their illness, and often change needs to happen. And it often is, coming back to the body, back to the heart. And this revolution, I feel that coming. And I'm a Gene Keys fan, and Richard Rudd and Human Design.
Yeah.
They talk about 2027, the solar plexus mutation of humanity, and that's where we're coming more out of the mental plane, and we're going into the solar plexus, gut, intuition, energy, feeling, emotion. And I feel like a lot of us have been feeling that for years. I don't think it's going to be one random day in 2027 where everything just suddenly, maybe it will be that way, I'm not sure, but our bodies are going through these beautiful genetic mutations to bring us into a higher frequency, to bring us into a space where we can come back to feeling and discerning energy. Watch animals, they know, they can sense energy, they can read energy. You can't say that we can't do that.
Right.
We have this inside us. I think it's just been forgotten or covered up, or, all the distractions that we have around us keep you from connecting to your own truth of, what do I feel? And what do I need to speak about? What do I need to share? How do I want to show up? And where's it coming from? Is it coming from my head or my heart? And so as we come into alignment with more of those pieces, then the conversations change. The health changes the body. Your body's like, oh yeah, that's better. You can feel it coming out of the head.
It makes so much sense, because if you go on a trip to, let's say, Italy or Tofino or whatever, and your body's all of a sudden like, holy, I just feel so relaxed. I feel so at peace. And then you go back to where you're from, and all of a sudden you're back in your work that you hate. You're back in your relationship that you feel disconnected from. You're back in, maybe surrounding yourself with people who don't live the values that you hope to live. And it just naturally makes sense. There's that saying that if a plant is wilting or dying, you don't blame the plant. You look at the environment.
Absolutely.
That is not radical.
It seems like it's radical based on the bigger paradigm, but it's common sense, like we talked about. It's just practical. And I use an example like that often with patients. We have a little fish tank in our office. There's a little fish in there. If that fish starts having issues, you don't blame the fish either. It's like, maybe the idea would be you just take that one out, put a new one in. If it died or gets fin rot or something, just toss
Bob
it.
in a new one.
Boom, new one. And the question I often ask is like, did anybody check the water? And we can do that for our bodies and our lives. We have our inner environment and we have our external environment, and that will completely dictate what is going on with our bodies, our minds, and our health and whether it's really in alignment, we're full of vitality, or we're not. And so check the water in your life. What's the pH in there? What's the bacterial count? There's got to be something that could shift, and then you can bring that fish back to full health if you create an environment that's conducive to life that way.